Hello and welcome back to Jazzonomics. The records and CDs in the background might give you an idea about what my topic will be today. I'm going to list the 5 best gigs or the 5 best performers that I've ever seen. I should be keeping the glasses on today. I was up pretty late last night. Didn't get to bed till about 12:30 after watching the Fury fight. Not the greatest spectacle you've ever seen. The BBC website made it sound like a much better fight than it actually was. Usyk never really in trouble. Tyson Fury seemed unwilling rather, to engage. Usyk always had another gear. He was the clear winner. Those that thought Fury won that fight must have been watching something completely different to what I saw. I think I saw three various excuse me, I think I saw about 3 various streams, and I finished on the BT Sport or the TNT stream, and the analysts and commentators, Richie Woodall, Frampton, not Peter Frampton, Carl Frampton, and Darren Fletcher all sort of thought that Fury had drawn the fight or was possibly winning. I'm not really quite sure how they came to that conclusion. Anyway, justice was served. Usyk a worthy winner. I don't think he's as great as all the pundits would have you believe. Tyson Fury is very much on the slide. He doesn't really seem to have a great deal of hunger anymore for the fight game, but when you're sleeping in silk pyjamas, the hunger probably dissipates. Anyway, on with the show. I'm going to list the 5 greatest live acts that I've seen and or performers. Firstly, I've seen this band probably at least 4 times in the 90s. They're an excellent live act. They're still doing the rounds today. I'm going to pick a show that I saw in 1997 at Nottingham Rock City. I could have picked several shows really. Aston Villa Leisure Centre, Mile End, Glastonbury 94. I may have seen them on another occasion as well, but in 1997 I saw them on the night that their single went to #1 in the charts, and the act are Blur. I saw them on this tour. I saw them in between sort of 94 and 97 a good 4 times, I would think. An excellent live act. Mesmerising guitar playing by Graham Coxon. The rest of the band are excellent. Damon Albarn was something of a dynamo on stage, and a pretty captivating presence. Right at the front at Nottingham Rock City, my girlfriend at the time was quite excited because she sort of ended up touching his shin or his knee, or maybe even something a little higher, I'm not quite sure. Blur, in no particular order these, apart from the top one, who is very much the best performer that I've ever seen by a country mile. Again, round about 1994, this was at Leicester, De Montfort University, and one of my very few brushes with celebrity or fame. During my nurse training, there was someone on a course a little earlier than me whose mother did some work for this particular band and said that she'd be able to get me backstage, and I ended up meeting the guitarist before the show, and I met the guitarist and the drummer after the show. Had a brief chat with them, both very nice chaps, unassuming, quite short. Backstage wasn't drugs and bacchanalian excess. It was lots of fruit and water and just polite, gentle conversation. 2 of the band members had left and didn't go backstage, but it was on their 1994 tour, The Holy Bible, and the band are the Manic Street Preachers. James Dean Bradfield live is a fabulous guitarist, an absolutely fabulous guitarist. Sean Moore is a very, very good drummer. I lost interest in the Manic Street Preachers after this album. This album is up there with the very, very best records of the 90s, without any shadow of a doubt. It's harsh, it's uncompromising, songs like Faster and PCP and what else is on there? If White America Told the Truth for One Day, its world would fall apart. The Intense Humming of Evil. Cheery songs. Well, they're not cheery at all. They are incredibly bleak. They are quite disturbing. They were a brilliant live act at this point, but after this album, I really went off them. They didn't do it for me at all. Another band who I've seen twice. The first time I saw them was at the Glastonbury Festival in 1994, and they were something of a revelation. They came to prominence in probably around about 1988, and I had no interest in them at all. In 1988, rather, I was listening to the Who, Cream, the Rolling Stones, Prince, U2, Simple Minds, Springsteen, Soul. An awful lot of people at school were interested in this band, but they never really did it for me. So I went to see them in 1994 out of curiosity, really. And they were an absolute revelation. And the band are the Beastie Boys. A mixture of hip hop, hardcore, jazz funk, funk. They were absolutely blistering that night. I think it was on a Friday night, round about 6ish on the NME stage, and I went to see them on their Polar Fleece tour, which I think was later that year at Wolverhampton Civic Hall. And ironically, on the way home, it absolutely chucked it down with snow, and it was rather hairy getting back from Wolverhampton to near Tamworth in the Midlands. A great live act, a real revelation. If you're not, I would say this is probably the Beastie Boys album that I've listened to the most, because it was the first Beastie Boys album that I listened to, but their magnum opus, if you like, would be 1989's Paul's Boutique, which for my money is the best album of 1989 by some considerable distance. The other act or acts I'm going to mention is sort of two in one, really, and it encompasses drumming. One is a drummer that I went to see at Cardiff Drum Depot with my ex-partner, and I'm not a big fan of drum solos or bass solos. They do bore me to death, but this was a drum clinic, I think it was called, at the Drum Depot in Cardiff, and the drummer in question is called Keith Carlock, and watching him at close quarters was absolutely mesmerising. I know he's played with Steely Dan, possibly with Christopher Cross. One of the best things I've seen, surprisingly good. And the other band, and again, it relates to a drummer. It's a drummer called Zach Starkey, who is Ringo Starr's son. And he was, and may still be, a drummer for The Who. I've seen The Who on 3 occasions, twice with John Entwistle and one without. And on 2 of those occasions, Zach Starkey was the drummer. So The Who, they were a great live act. More so with John Entwistle playing. I don't think anybody can really copy or live up to his exceptional bass playing. I think Pino Palladino, I think is his name. He is the bass player with The Who now on a live, in a live setting. And strangely, when I was at work one day, there was a patient that came in. I'm not betraying any confidence here. And he said he used to be in a band with Pino Palladino in Cardiff. They were all considerably older, and he joined the band when he was about 16. And it was obvious then that he was leagues and leagues above them in terms of experience. So The Who, a very good live act. I think I went to see them with Dad on the night of my 16th birthday, I think, at the NEC in Birmingham. I think I've seen them there 3 times. Twice, good seats. The first time I went to see them, right at the back. You know, it's not the greatest experience in the world. And the best live act I've ever seen by some considerable distance. I've seen him 7 times in between 1988 and round about, when would it have been, 2015, 2017, something like that. I can't quite remember. And I could have picked 4 of his gigs to be at the very top of this list. They would have been at the NEC in Birmingham, Lancashire County Cricket Club's ground, Old Trafford, in Manchester. Where else would I have seen? I can't quite remember. But the one at the very top of the list would be the first gig that I ever went to. It was in 1988. It was at Villa Park, Birmingham, England. I think it was the day after the summer solstice. Dad picked me up from school a little early that day. I would have been 14 going on 15, I think. And it is still one of the most memorable experiences of my life. We drove there. The tickets were £17.50. Those were the days. And with sort of inflation, you're probably talking about £60 to go and see this performer. We were on the pitch, relatively close to the front. And the excitement when this performer came on stage was absolutely amazing. My thoughts were, it's him, I don't believe it. I'm not really quite sure who I expected to see. You know, we paid money to see this performer, and it was on his 1988 tour, and the clue is, ought to be easy, ought to be simple enough. Man meets woman and they fall in love, but this house is haunted and the ride gets rough. You've got to learn to live with what you can't ride above. If you ride on down into this Tunnel of Love Express Tour, 1988, an unbelievable show. And 4 of the 7 times that I've seen him, he has blown everybody else out of the water that I've ever seen. Prince is probably the only performer that I wish that I'd got the chance to see again, but Springsteen, he has that X factor in spades. And talking about Springsteen, I was talking about Apple TV the other night, and there's a documentary on there, and I started watching it last night. It's pretty good. It's called Letter to You, and it's about one of his later albums, Letter to You, which I think, now I'm wondering whether that contains the song, I think it's called If I Were the Priest. I think that's what it's called. It's either on Western Stars or one of his very latest albums. I can't quite remember the title of it, but I think it's one of the songs that he wrote very, very early in his career, and he took it to his CBS audition. I'm sure it's called If I Were the Priest. Check it out. It's one of the best things he's ever written, and there's a very late recording of it on one of his later albums. Western Stars or Letter to You, that's right. It's that's what it's called. Anyway, Springsteen, the best live performer I've ever seen. I've not really seen any jazz acts live. I think the closest thing that I have seen to a jazz act would be Gil Scott Heron at Ronnie Scott's club in Birmingham. And my abiding memory of that is he's one of the thinnest humans I've ever seen. And he spent most of the night chugging from a large glass of what looked like orange juice. I'm not quite sure what else was in there. Perhaps it was just orange juice. But anyway, Gil Scott Heron, Ronnie Scott, Scott's Club, Birmingham, pretty good. That's probably enough for today. Thank you very much for watching. And just before I go, something slightly odd about this actually. The complete Jimmy Lunsford Decca Sessions. I bought the job lot off Marketplace some time ago, a couple of weeks, a week or two ago, and there were two copies of this, and I thought they were all present and correct. One is on eBay at the moment. It is all there, it's all intact, and everything is sealed. But I looked at this in some detail the other day, and there are, it looks like all of the CDs are there, but CD 7 is missing, and there are 2 copies of CDs 3 and 4, I think, If anybody has any advice or any idea about how much that would fetch on eBay, being as it is incomplete, that would be a good idea. The Jimmy Lunsford set that is complete has been going for an average price on Discogs for around about £138, but I don't think that was sealed and possibly not in such good condition as the one I have. Right, that is enough for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. I can take the glasses off now. You won't see the bags. This was Jazzonomics.